You would not believe the trouble I had just trying to get StreamYard to work well tonight and for this live to actually be live. As a matter of fact, I'm still having some challenges with StreamYard, which seems to have come on board just now. And so it looks like we are streaming from our destination. I'm super excited that you're joining me tonight for this conversation. I just want to say that I'm having some internet issues, so we may drop, but for every time we drop, I'm going to come back because I think that what I'm sharing tonight is so super important. If you're seeing me for the very first time, my name is Coach Duquesa, and today we are talking about an important yet sensitive subject. And that subject is really healing from the trauma that we experience from those who should have cared for us but ended up causing us harm. Now, I know you've heard it said before because I have that if we were to trace the source of our biggest challenges in life, many of us would trace those things back to our childhood. There was some significant event that may have happened as we were being reared by our nurturers that caused us to be stuck in certain emotional cycles. And as a result of those situations, we grow up putting labels on ourselves. I don't want to talk about some of those labels tonight. Sometimes we label ourselves as shy. Sometimes we're labeled as aggressive. Sometimes we label ourselves introverted. And so some of those labels are actually as a result of situations that we navigated or didn't really know how to handle when we were children. Now, if you grew up in an era of time when I grew up, it was a time where children didn't have a voice. And so we could not speak out. We could not say that we were unhappy about a particular situation. Let me know in the chat if, you grew up in the same era as I did. We were not able to vocalize the way that we were feeling. We were shut down. Many times, if we were emotional, we were threatened to be given something to cry for. And so, we have been cultivated isn't the right word, but we have been groomed to shut down our emotions and our feelings and to almost ignore the trauma that happened with us. But I want you to know that childhood trauma can actually cast a huge shadow over our adulthood. It can affect various aspects of our lives. We may experience one or a number of combination of things, one of which is anxiety and depression. Now, anxiety and depression show up in so many different ways. And many of us won't pause to trace it back to the fact that we're still being triggered by something that happened in our past that we didn't have any power over or control over. We also suffer from low self esteem. We're not understanding our value as individuals because we were essentially not taught what that value is. We our low self-esteem, we struggle with that self-esteem because we were not taught how to value ourselves. We were not taught that who we are is enough. Many of us, as a matter of fact, had to actually earn our validation from our parents by being coming first in our class or being super achievers, or we had to work for recognition, work for acknowledgement, and all of these things impact the way we show up in life. These trauma situations impact how we trust others, because if the people who were supposed to care for us abused us and misused us, and we didn't develop a trust in them, how then can we develop that trust in anyone else? How can anyone else be worthy of our trust if the very nature of our community, our first tribe, was not a trusting one? We also struggle with emotional challenges, which creates relationship issues. There are commitment issues. There are trauma that prevents us from being able to connect to other people. Those of us who were not given love find it difficult to receive love and affection. Those of us who were given love and affection may have felt that it was too much, and so we're not so receiving of it. I mean, there are so many things that happen when we allow all of those situations to sit in our chest. And I'm talking from the time that we recognize who we are, we recognize right from wrong, to the point where we actually leave that home. And that spans a number of years. Many times if I'm driving through the city of Nassau and I see people are on the side of the street struggling with substance abuse, one of the very first questions I ask is, I wonder what trauma, what was it that caused them to cross that line, to want to be numb to life, to, and this is drug use, this is alcohol use, all of that to help numb the pain. Life is hard. I mean, like, let's just be real. I thought about that today. I'm like, whoa, life is really hard. And so when you're dealing with the fact that life is hard, and then you're struggling with that sense of worthlessness, or not being nurtured, or not being worthy enough for love, or people have misused you and abused you from childhood throughout your even your adult life, being in relationships with women or men who didn't honor you, like, all of these things begin to fester. And so these issues can even turn into health issues. We have heart problems, we have high blood pressure, we have all sorts of health issues that are as a result of stress, because stress is a silent killer. But if we just sit down and trace back the source of our stress, the source of our trauma, it really goes back to a time when we were helpless, a time when we were being nurtured by people who did not do the best job. I mean, people do what they know. We're going to try to keep this conversation as real as we possibly can. And if you look at Black families in general, there are certain things that we pass down generationally as it relates to parenting. We are hard parents for the most part. And growing up in the years that I grew up in a Black family, there were just certain things that were normal, like shouting at your children, like threatening your children if they cry, that you would give them something to cry for, or those sorts of situations were very commonplace. But that causes even trauma, or even having to work to earn that love, to earn affection. All of that, like, sits inside of us, and it carries through with us through life. So we have to recognize the impact of our childhood experiences, because that is really one of the first steps towards recovery. It started many, many years ago when we had absolutely no control. It started many, many years ago when somebody who was responsible for nurturing us didn't. It started many, many years ago when our fathers abandoned us, when our moms were single moms and they had to struggle to actually take care of us, and our fathers were non-existent, and we yearned for a father's love. I remember that so vividly, watching little girls after school running to the car screaming daddy, and I didn't have that experience, and it made me feel less. It made me feel like there was something about me that made my father at that particular point in time not want to be associated with me or be in my life. And that's a hard thing for a little girl to reconcile, when those circumstances may not have had anything to do with her at all. And Sonia, I see you saying it's true. We have little boys that don't have role models and are struggling through life, and we make life so difficult for men with the expectation that they have no emotions, that they man up, that they that they're not supposed to have feelings. And so they also, from a very young age, are cultivated by their parents. Boys are treated differently from girls. Some young boys could tell you that they could go and what Eddie Murphy said in Coming to America, they could sow their wild oars or oats or whatever you call the expression, but girls didn't have that. And so there was also this double standard that we grew up with, and it created some questions in us, and it created some situations in us. And so tonight, as we have this conversation, I want to just give you 6 quick tips, because I don't want this to be long tonight. I want to give you 6 quick tips to help deal with trauma. Now, this could be childhood trauma, this could be relationship trauma, any sort of emotional, spiritual trauma that you may have experienced in your life. So the very first thing we need to do is we need to acknowledge that there is pain. Numbing the pain, ignoring the pain, keeping it underneath the surface does more harm to us than good. It's essential that we recognize that someone hurt us. And tonight, I want to say to you that if you've been hurt by anyone, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a mother, a father, another family member, a nurturer, whether you were given up for adoption, whether you were not nurtured properly, whatever that pain is, maybe it's an adulterous relationship that broke your heart, whatever that pain is, tonight I want to say to you that I am sorry you had that experience. And if you've never heard, I am sorry, I want to clearly speak loud and say to you that I am sorry that you had that experience because you were not deserving of it. You see, when those who were supposed to love us and care for us damage us or hurt us, it leaves deep emotional scars. And many times when I look at people, I see the bullets that have marked their souls, the bullets that have penetrated their souls, because those soul wounds are so much deeper than a superficial cut. And many of us are walking around with damaged souls because there is so much trauma and pain that we are trying to keep beneath the surface. We are afraid that if we acknowledge it, it's going to overtake us. But I'm here tonight to tell you that you have to recognize and accept that the feelings that you have as a result of that trauma are worthy of being acknowledged and explored. You deserve to feel hurt. You deserve to feel the pain. You deserve to feel disappointed. But we're not going to get stuck in those feelings. We're going to acknowledge that as a result of what someone else did, I feel pain. Whether it's validated or not, it's not important. Whether that person believes they inflicted pain on you is not important. Their viewpoint is not important. The important aspect of this is you recognizing your own pain and understanding that that pain won't go away unless you really open it up and inspect it. So I want to encourage you, and if you're watching along with me, type in chat for me, please, the points as I make them. Point number one is really that we need to acknowledge the pain. See it for what it is. Because when we ignore pains, it festers beneath the surface and becomes toxic. And when people become toxic, we hear things like, that's just who I am. No, that's what those experiences have created. Those experiences have caused you to change. Let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. When your heart was broken in that very first relationship, that pain caused you to make some changes. Those changes were as a result of a choice that you made. Not that that's who you were or that's who you are. We grow, we evolve. We don't stay the same. And so the cop out that that's who I am is an excuse to not really look at why we're being toxic. Why are we being negative? Why are we lashing out at other people? Why are we being bitter? Why do we have this shield up that says, that's just who I am, when there's someone so much more beautiful underneath the surface? When you release that pain and let that go, you have the ability to truly embrace the person that you can grow into as a result of that pain. So the very first part of our conversation is to acknowledge the pain. The second thing that we're going to talk about as it relates to this pain and letting this pain go is to seek support. Now, when we talk about support, I want you to know that healing is not something that you do alone, because when you're trying to heal alone, you only have your thoughts and your limited experiences. Healing requires the experiences of wise people, people who've gone through similar situations years ago and navigated it and came through. And so seeking support could be a support group. We have a whole cancer support group for women navigating cancer, because cancer is not just a physical journey. It is an emotional journey. It is a mental journey. It is a spiritual journey. And all of those things take a hit. When we get support from people that we trust, our friends, our family members, or even a therapist, it allows us to release. This morning, as a matter of fact, I called my closest friend and I said to her, listen, I just want to share some things with you. I don't want any advice. I don't want to hear any opinions. I just need to release and process this as I release it. And so she sat and she listened to me so that I could release the situation that was making me feel a little anxious. Because when we have a safe space and we're able to let that go, it's like, like if you have food poisoning and that toxic stuff is inside your body, it makes you feel nauseous, you're sick. And it isn't until you have diarrhea or you vomit that you immediately feel better. Well, having a support group is very similar, or having support in your life is very similar. It allows you to release the toxins so that they don't just simmer underneath the surface. And so, talking about your experiences can be therapeutic. I had someone call me I think it was last week, about a post I made on social media about the complicated relationship that I have with my daughter. One of the things that the lady said when she called to me was, Thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability in sharing that your relationship with your daughter took time to cultivate, and that you made some parenting mistakes along the way, which resulted in her experiencing some trauma that she had to heal from. But as you became a better person and you evolved, you were able to become a better parent. Your vulnerability helped me to recognize and realize that I've done some things wrong, but I have the opportunity to make amends and repair the relationship with my daughter. That's what sharing our experiences has the power to do for other people. It helps them to understand that they're not alone. And I'm not by any way saying that you should jump on social media and do what I do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that it is okay to have a trusted friend, a trusted partner, a support group, maybe even women's empowerment events where you can be around other people and hear their experiences and how they've grown, because it's going to help you heal. There is so much strength in reaching out and asking for help. Many times people think that asking for help is a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength. So, point number 2 is to seek some sort of support. Please, I implore you not to stay in your own head, isolated with your own thoughts, because your experiences are limited. And we can only take ourselves as far as our experiences allow. But when we're able to tap into the experiences of other people, we now have the opportunity to learn how they overcame. And the other part of seeking support, and what keeps us from seeking support, is that we experience shame and are embarrassed by trauma. When we look back at the situation with our parents in our childhood, we may be embarrassed by that situation, embarrassed that it happened to us. And so this keeps us silent. You may believe that that situation is isolated to you, but I am here today to tell you that what we believe is only isolated to us is common among us. If we sat in a room filled with women, there would be women with common experiences. There would be women who were given up for adoption. There would be people who were abused. There would be sexual abuse in the room. There would be people who didn't have food as young children. So your experience, even though you feel that it's only isolated to you, I want you to know today that it is not isolated to you. So do not allow that to keep you silent. If we poll people, the vast majority of people will have similar situations and incidences as the root of their pain. So point number 2 is to seek support. Thank you so much, Sonia. I see you are typing those in for me. I appreciate it. Let's move on to point number 3. Point number 3 is that as a part of our healing journeys, we have to set boundaries. When we set boundaries, what we are actually doing is protecting ourselves. And when I talk about boundaries, I mean healthy boundaries, okay? Because there are good and bad boundaries. It's okay to distance yourself from people who have caused you pain and harm, even if they're close family members or even longtime friends. Because in reality, your well-being should come first. If you are not well, you can't be a good parent. You can't be a good friend. You are limited in being your best if your well-being is not taken care of, if you're not setting boundaries. Now, when we think about boundaries, we think about boundaries from the perspective of keeping people out. There are certain people that we don't want around us. And so our boundaries are set up to keep people out. But I want you to know that boundaries are also important because they protect what's inside of us. When you look at the type of person that you are, who deserves access to you? When I think about people that have access to me, I recognize that I'm a nurturer, I'm a giver, I'm a problem solver. And so I will give of myself to other people um, in ways that sometimes sacrifice my own sanity. And I've had to pull back on that and say, hey, you have to take care of you first, which is why I took that sabbatical this year, because I've been going so hard and giving other people, other institutions what they needed instead of taking care of myself more along the journey. Your well-being has to come first. If you're not well, you can't make money. And that was my situation. Either I burn and crash, or I take 2 months off to rejuvenate myself. That was a boundary. That was a time boundary. So that was to protect what was inside of me. I also want to share very quickly a story about family members, because we believe that, or people try to brainwash us into thinking that just because we were born into a particular family, that those people should automatically have access to us. And yes, our family is our first tribe. We were born for community and into community. And so our family is the place where we should be nurtured, where we should be loved, where there should be healthy relationships. Our cousins are our first friends. As a matter of fact, my cousins were my first friends. We had enough cousins. My grandma used to say, y'all don't need no friends because y'all have enough family. It was that type of situation. But I want you to know that as we grew into adulthood, my brother, who had his own issues, began to have some challenges. And if I were to be real, I think that there were some mental things happening there. And so as a result of the challenges he faced in life and how he lashed out, it became a very toxic relationship. And so, yes, I love him dearly. My brother passed away. My mom had 2 children. There were only 2 of us. But my brother was extremely toxic. And so I had to take him in periods and limit his access to dumping all of that toxicity on me, all of that negativity on me, particularly if there was nothing that I had done to set him off. And so while I loved him, and while we got together for family events, while we got together for extended family events, there were certain boundaries in place for how much access he had to me. After he passed away, I was really sad because as a coach, I wish that I could have helped him more. I wish that he was open to the guidance and the leading that the coaching was trying to provide. But he was not open to that. And that's another thing that we have to recognize as a part of setting boundaries. People have to choose whether they want to improve, grow, or not. And we have a choice in the matter. We have a choice if their behavior is toxic to us, regardless if they are related to us or not, to establish a boundary. So I want to encourage you today as step number 3 to set some boundaries for yourself. Are you people pleasing? Understand why and set a boundary. Are you depleting yourself to serve others? Ask yourself why. Get to the root of why you're doing what you're doing. Are you seeking acceptance and validation outside of you? Is that why you're doing what you're doing? Ask yourself that question. Look at the boundaries that you need to put in place so that you preserve yourself. You know, while I was taking my sabbatical, I had a medical emergency. And one of my family members was very upset with me because she thought I should have been doing more to help a sick relative. I can't help you if I am sick. And that's a boundary that I'm going to stand by. Who mad? Be mad. After I've taken care of myself and gotten myself to the place where I can now serve, where I have something to give, I can now give that. So do not allow people to make you feel guilty for the boundaries that you put in place to protect yourself. And so step number 4, let's move on to step number 4, because step number 4 is crucial. It is all about self-care. And women, we have been taught to fill so many roles. We have been taught to put ourselves on the back burner. Women, we have been taught that we have to give. We go to work, we give at work, we come home, we cook dinner, we do homework, we take care of children, we take care of husbands. They want that sweetness, you give them that sweetness. You wake up the next morning, you go all through that cycle again. But who's feeding you? Who's feeding into you? Who's replenishing you? How are you taking care of yourself? What is your self-care routine? Self-care is crucial to help you get through a trauma. What are the activities that are nurturing your mind so that when you sit down and that experience comes up, you know how to grab that experience and reframe that? Because you've been reading books about how to take care of your mind, how to control your thought, how to take care of your body, how to nourish your soul. Reading material that is uplifting, motivating, and inspirational. Listening to podcasts that motivate you, uplift you. Even meditating on the Word of God, finding a scripture that resonates with you and meditating on that. Exercising, going out in nature. Like, what is your thing just for you? What gives you peace? Listen, there is nothing more valuable in this world except time than peace. So, what are you doing for peace? And a lot of times, women in particular, we get super busy. We get super busy to bury the pain and the trauma. We go, 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 go. Because when we sit down in the quiet, those thoughts, they flood us. And we start thinking about all of the things that happen to us. And so one of our safety mechanisms is to stay busy. But your brain needs rest. Your brain rests when it sleeps. So if you're suffering from insomnia because of your pain and trauma, how are you getting enough rest? Your brain needs rest. Your body needs care. What are you doing to practice self-care? Coming out of this live, I want to challenge you to find one thing you can do this week, just this week. We're going to start with just this week that shows you yourself, that you can show yourself how much you love yourself by doing something that takes care of you. And it's not eating fast food, something that is about rejuvenating your spirit. The fifth thing that we're going to talk about today is self-forgiveness. It is, listen, when we sit with our trauma, we start blaming ourselves. If I was a better child, if I had listened more, if I had done A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So we find a whole alphabet of reasons why we were the problem. We find the whole alphabet of why we are the problem. When in many instances, we had no control. In many instances, as a child, you have no control. Your unworthiness is not something that is your responsibility, or your feelings of unworthiness is not your responsibility. It's the responsibility of your parents to affirm you, to validate you, to build your self-esteem, to teach you self-value, to let you know that you are enough from you are a child. That's not your fault. Your parent failed you. But we turn that around and we start blaming ourselves. If only I had, no, sweetie, nothing you do could change somebody else's actions. Their actions are their choice. And so we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. Forgive yourself and understand that healing takes time. Listen to me. There is nothing we can do to earn someone's love. Absolutely nothing. To earn their love. Love isn't earned. Love is given. Love isn't earned. There's nothing you can do to prove to someone that you are deserving of love if they don't see the worth in you. Don't waste your time. I'm being real with you. Don't waste your time trying to do all of these different things to prove to anybody, family, friend, foe, lover, that you are worthy. Forgive yourself. And commit to yourself that you're going to inspect every single situation that you're sitting in and blaming yourself to identify what's really the truth of this situation. Did I fail my child, or did my child make decisions in their adult life that I'm not pleased with, but I nurtured them the right way, I trained them the right way, and that is their decision? Should I hold on to that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Forgive yourself and don't blame yourself for things that aren't your fault. If it's not your fault. It's okay that Certain times you're going to have setbacks, and you're going to look at certain situations, and those things are going to trigger you, and you go back to that place of, blaming yourself and not forgiving yourself. But you have to remind yourself that you are worthy. Whatever happened to you, happened to you. My cancer warriors sometimes struggle with the fact that they had cancer, because why did cancer choose them? What did they do? But it's not about what you do. It's something that happened to you. And it has nothing to do with your sense of worth. You were born worthy. You were born enough. You were born with a royal heritage. And I want to talk just for 1 second about Romans 12:2, which says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And renewing our minds means that we accept God's forgiveness and we let go of self-condemnation. God doesn't ask us to prove ourselves. He asks when we profess that we have transformed and we're changing our lives, that we live a certain way, that we live a kingdom life, that we live kingdom principles. But we didn't have to earn God's love. He gave that to us freely. We didn't have to earn God's grace. He gave that to us freely. And when we come to a place of asking forgiveness, he forgives us freely and holds it not against us anymore. And who's greater than God? And so I want to encourage you today, as this point number 5, to renew your mind. Renew your mind as a part of your self-forgiveness and let go of certain situations. I'm going to tell you, it's really hard. I don't want to sit here on this live and act like it's easy to let certain situations go. When I think back to my childhood, and I think back to my 13, I'm getting emotional because I think back to my 13-year-old self being left alone 2 weeks after my mom got married with my stepfather, who pledged before he got married that my mom would be his wife and I would be his sweetheart. And I go back to that day when he tried to make that promise a reality. And my 7-year-old brother and I had to literally fight this grown man. And I had to run out of the house. And you know what his explanation is? Oh, I wear short pants. Trying to make it seem as if it's my fault that he's perverted, so that I could make myself the blame for his perversion. But he looked at me in a sexual way, growing into my teen years, and wanted that for himself. I'm not going to hold on to that. Because if I hold on to what he did, it's going to destroy me. It's going to destroy relationships that I have with men. So I had to learn to forgive him. I had to learn to pray for him. I had to learn to pray for any other young girl who was abused by him, because he had access to many young girls. And I have to pray that they have not been traumatized in the same way that I've been traumatized. And so forgiving other people can only happen when you forgive yourself. And I had to forgive myself for letting his manipulation and brainwashing, as it relates to me growing into teen years and my shape and all these different things, as me being the fault for his perversion. Hell no, buddy, you're sick. You're sick. And so I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself when I grew up into a woman that recognized that my dad was not active in my life, for thinking that there was something wrong with me, why he didn't choose to be in my life. I had to forgive myself for blaming me. It's like, that's your choice. We good now. But hey, that was your choice. And I'm not going to hold that anger and bitterness so that it destroys me. So I want to ask you to renew your mind. The final step that we're going to talk about today is seeking professional help. Sometimes professional help is necessary. There's no shame in a therapist. My daughter and I have both had therapy. We've had therapy separately. We've had therapy together. I know a lot of young children who are navigating divorce with their parents who have recommended a particular therapist. They go into therapy to talk about the challenges that their experiences in their young childhood as their parents separate, because divorce is something that not only impacts the mother and the father, it impacts the children in the home. So therapy is super important. There's no shame in getting help and finding strategies to help you navigate the healing process. Earlier, I told you that we can only take ourselves as far as our experiences allow us to. And if we have had traumatic experiences over and over and over and over again, we're limited. If we've been in survival mode all of our lives, we're limited. If we've been unsupported, where we've had to do it all alone, we are limited. If we're single parents that really just had to, ignore what we felt and do what was necessary, we are limited. So reach out for help. Anybody, a professional help, that they have the right tools to help you come through that situation. Whenever you have an interaction with someone and they respond in a way that's, just outside of what a situation calls for, it tells you the emotional place that they're stuck in. So many of us are stuck as our 7-year-old self, as our 8-year-old self, as our 13-year-old self. Many of us are stuck at that emotional state. And so we respond from that place of trauma and that place of pain. So today I want to encourage you to heal. You deserve that. A better life a better life is available for you. It takes work, because healing is a journey. It's not one and done. It takes time. Even as a coach, and even as someone who is being coached, there are times when triggers come to me and take me back to a time, and I have to work myself back through that, because now I have the tools to help me stay grounded and understand that what happened to me was something that I had no control over. But you need the proper tools. As we close our live today, I appeal to you to get support. Be patient with yourself and trust the process. A lot of the work that I do today with women with children is as a result of pain that I had as a child and as a teenager and as an abused woman. A lot of the things that I've built my life, my career on, are things that were once pain in my life. The life that I live today was built on the foundation of pain and suffering and trauma. But because I was able to heal and come through out of the other side of that situation, I can be a guiding light for other people to share how to get from overwhelm into a place of taking ownership of your life. Those experiences, which were meant for bad, actually converted to good. If we take the lessons from those experiences and use the lessons to evolve, we can create a whole different life. You are stronger than you know. You deserve to heal, and you deserve to thrive. You deserve to wake up happy every single day. You deserve to recognize that that happened to you and that could make you into the best version of you. You deserve to know that you are worthy, that you are enough, that your situations won't break you. You deserve to know that your life has value and that you have every right to take up space. You were born to take up space on this earth. And many times the enemy is crafty in using pain to distract us from being bold and courageous in the execution of our purpose. Keeps us distracted. But if you were to heal, he would be scared every single day that you wake up, because you've come through that situation and you've defeated it on him. And now you could live a life where you are happy and purpose, where you are focused on the things that truly bring you joy. So I leave you with that. The choice is yours. All it takes is one step. All it takes is one action, because God responds to our acts of faith. Please type that in the chat for me, Sonia, if you're still here. God responds to our acts of faith. because faith without works is dead. So if you have a vision of a greater life, a better life, and you want to have faith, faith requires action. So take action towards your best future. I'm so happy that you joined me today. Thank you so very much for sitting with me on this live. I'll be back again next week, Monday, because I'm going to make a summer series out of this. So I'll be back next week, Monday, with another topic. Just stay tuned to the Facebook page for that topic. We're going to work through some of these situations that we don't talk about enough. We're going to work through some of the things that keep us shackled. If this resonated with you any, and if you believe that this could help anyone else, please share it with anyone that you think can use any of the 6 tips that we talked about. And Sonia was so nice to put them on the screen. Acknowledge the pain and seek support. Set healthy boundaries. Love yourself. Forgive yourself because you are worthy. Renew your mind and seek professional help. Those are the 6 closing tips for today. Take care, guys. Have a great week. And I can't wait to talk with you again next week, Monday. Bye-bye.